Good evening, and welcome to the Milford Board of Education's regular board meeting for Thursday, October 15th. We're going to start the meeting with a call to order and a roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Here.
Mr. Yaki?
Here.
Mrs. Brady?
Here.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Here.
Mr. Ham?
Here, thank you. Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We need to make some changes to tonight's agenda before we approve it. For item C in Human Resources, 12G, step 14 instead of step 1. 14K, step 14 instead of step 13. 14I, remove step 1, 7,568. 14L, 8,240 cents instead of 8,240. 14M, 5,886 instead of 11,772. 14Q, $3,195.20 instead of $3,195. 14V, girls basketball assistant, level 8, step 4, 6,727. Assistant coach, level 8, pay step 5, 7,147. 14Y, $4,729.50 instead of $4,729. And then finally 12J, step 17 instead of step 18. So I will need a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the previously listed changes.
So moved.
Second, may I ask a question here?
Of course.
14K, step 14 instead of 13, I have step 1. Is that, am I missing something?
You're at 14K?
14K? And 14,
So yeah, it should be step
should be.
14 instead of step 1. Is that correct? Okay, we'll make those changes to
I'll adjust it.
the amended.
step 4, so that is
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's our final on 14K?
Dan, can you finalize, is that step 1, correct?
Okay, so we'll eliminate 14K as a change and go with what is currently in the agenda with no amendment.
Okay.
Should that have been a different 14? I don't,
I believe it should have been J. It should be 14J.
14J, step
Should be
14 instead of 13.
Yeah, the one right above it.
So do we want to bring that back in as 14J?
Yeah.
So the correction is just 14J instead of 14K. Correction, otherwise the correction's okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll correct our previous correction, and the only thing that will change on that line item will be under 14J instead of 14K. Step 14 instead of step 13, correct?
Correct.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. Next, we need the approval of the minutes from our prior regular board meeting on September 17th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. We will need approval of the minutes for our board work session, October 12, 2020. I'll need a motion.
So move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Abstain.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Abstain.
Mr. Ham?
Yes. Okay, we have presentations. Who do I need to hand this over to?
I'll take
Superintendent John
the
Spicer.
mic. Thank you. President Ham, members of the board, members of the audience, we have a couple presentations for you this evening. Our first presentation today, I was going to introduce our Director of Fine Arts Athletics and Director of Fine Arts and Extracurriculars, Dan Yeager, but Tracy Huggins, art teacher at Pattison.
Good
Turn it over
evening,
to you.
everyone. Thank you. First, I do want to just thank Superintendent Spicer for continuing with the recognition of student artwork at the board meetings. I know it means a lot to the students. I'm honored to be representing the student artists at Pattison this evening and their collaborative mural behind me. This artwork is inspired by the artist Kandinsky, who uses dots and circles, concentric circles, to represent connectedness. At the same time, there's a literary connection, and that's the story of the dot. And in this story of the dot, it's about a teacher with a very doubtful student. And the student gains self-esteem with the help of her teacher and gathers the confidence to take risks in her artwork and to grow. But my favorite aspect about this piece is that it represents students from kindergarten all the way through 6th grade, as well as Eagle Online students. I offered this lesson online, and many Eagle Online students participated in it and actually sent me artwork. So I printed some of their artwork off and added it to the mural. So by doing that, I do truly feel that this colorful piece of artwork symbolizes Milford means all. Thank you so much.
And Trace, thank you very much for continuing. Obviously, I have first-hand experience, Emily, as well, and what you've done to inspire our children at Pattison. Please continue to do that. You've done such an amazing job, so thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. For those of you who don't know, Tracy and her students are also behind the Jimi Hendrix artwork that hangs behind my office desk there, and we do the videos there. Tracy, you are an inspiration to me as well, not just our students. Thank you. Our next presentation is Mr. Aaron Zufka, Director of Athletics, who is here this evening to recognize our Milford High School girls varsity tennis team.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the applause. Appreciate that. I've been cheering for you all year, so I'm glad it can come full circle here. But what an awesome evening it is. We look outside, we have the lights on, we have 3 events in 3 locations at school, and the fact that we can come here and talk about athletics and playing and the accomplishments of our team. I think a couple months ago we didn't know if that would be possible. So the fact that we're here even having this conversation is pretty amazing to me. So tonight I have the privilege of recognizing an amazing group of young ladies who've accomplished a great feat this year. And often we think some of the sports we talk about in tennis maybe not high on our list there. And shame on us, it should be. So I want to make sure we spend some time to give them the credit and recognition they deserve, because we have a phenomenal group that's done tremendous things on and off the court. So with great leadership here. So I just want to take a minute and introduce them. So why don't you all come up here? I want to talk about you in front of everybody, and I'll introduce you as you come up here. So we have the 11 members of our girls varsity tennis team, and they told me if I butcher their names, I'm in trouble, so I'm going to do my best. So Raven Benshoof is a senior. Lauren Hickey is a senior. Zoe Wisner is our 3 seniors. So why don't you come up here in front of everybody? I want everyone to see your faces here. We have Carmen Gibson, Elise Ostrander, Mia Gofrere, Kira Patella, Ariana Carranza, Annika Hansen, Zara Brown, and Jasmine Moo, led by head coach Michael Neverman. And I know our assistant coach, JV coach Isabel Caputa, is also here, so thank you for being here and your service. So I want to talk about these young ladies and this team for a minute. We experienced the resurgence of our tennis program this year. Really haven't had a year like this in almost 6 years since 14. They had an overall record of 9-3, 5-2 in our very competitive Eastern Cincinnati Conference. They finished tied for third in the regular season and second in the postseason tournament. Those two components are put together for a final rankings overall, which they finished third. Like I said, the second place finish in the ECC championships was the highest ever in school history when the ECC existed, which started in 2012. The Eagles advanced. We had two singles players and a doubles make it to the finals of the ECCs for a total of 3 runners-up. So that's Elise, Kira, and Annika and Ariana, who are doubles. So all those 4 young ladies made it to the finals of the ECCs. At the Coaches Classic, which is one of the most competitive events, you match up at schools all over the city. Doesn't matter what size school you are. We were runner-up there, but we had Elise was runner-up for first singles. Jasmine finished as champion in second singles, and she's a freshman. I just want to note that. And second doubles of Annika and Ariana finished runner-up in that Coaches Classic event. At the Division I sectionals a couple weeks ago at the Lindner Family Tennis Center in Mason, Lady Eagles did very well. Elise and Jasmine won 2 matches and were a match away from districts, and also Kira won a match there. So we had a great turnout. I think our sectional around the state was regarded as the toughest sectional and district in the state of Ohio. Many state champions come out of there. So overall, phenomenal year. These young ladies deserve a lot of credit, a lot of recognition, and we're really young. And our 3 seniors were phenomenal leaders, but we're very young, and we're primed to move forward and do even better coming up in the future. But I just want to say congrats to Michael Neverman. He's a phenomenal leader, and this couldn't be done without him and Isabel, their leadership in the program. So thank you so much. And if you would join me just to give them a round of applause and congratulate them on a job well done. And Coach Michael, I don't know if you want to say a word, but the floor is yours if you want to do that.
First off, I just want to start off by saying thank you guys for inviting us tonight to be recognized in front of all of you. It truly is an honor for not just myself, but also the girls. It's been a fabulous, fabulous ride this year. I want to start off by thanking Mr. Aaron Zufka for trusting me, believing in me, and kind of giving me free reins with the program, and the unconditional support. It's really it speaks volumes, and it's been awesome. I also want to thank the parents and Coach Isabel. Just great support system, supporting not only myself but also the girls the whole way through. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank the girls for an awesome ride. Thanks for your hard work, your dedication. It's been awesome. I'm excited for the future for us. Good job, girls. One more time, can we get up for the girls?
So this is the first time we've been able to bring anyone into our board meetings to recognize them, the students, since really back before March. And normally what we do is we have sort of a congratulation line. So I'd like to try something a little bit different if you're okay. Congratulations, girls. If you guys want to come through, we'll do an air 5 as you kind of walk through, if that works out okay. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. We got it. We got it.
I like the elbow bump myself.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Nice job, ladies.
Congratulations. 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 That worked out well. Seriously, congratulations, girls, on a fantastic season. Well deserved.
Chris, before we go on, I was sitting here thinking, and having spent a little time on the athletic side of the house, as everybody knows, I was on the athletic booster board for many years. I think this is the 10th women's season on those tennis courts out there. So those tennis courts have been out there for 10 years now. It seems like we just put them in. And I had an opportunity to go out and actually watch these girls play, and they really are phenomenal. I got out of a meeting here one day early and went over, and they're amazing. They do a fantastic job, and they're hitting balls in places that I could only dream about. So they've done a great job, and it's certainly apropos that we honor them here a little bit tonight.
Very good. Okay, we're going to move to our, if I'm still on, we're going to move to our first public participation of the night.
None at this time.
With no public participation, we'll move on to our reports to the board, starting with our treasurer, Brian Rabe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Recommended approval of item A, 1 through 6 of the, or, I'm sorry, item A, B, and C. Approval of the financial minutes for the month ending September 30th, 2020. Appropriations, resolutions, and the approval of the then and now invoice.
Okay, we need a motion for item A, items A through C.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Brian?
Just a couple items to point out. On the revenue side of things, there's a little bit of delay in some of the money received. We did receive, this is typically when we receive the TIF payments from both Miami Township and Union Township. We did receive the one from Union. We haven't received it from Miami, so we expect that to come here this month. On the expenditure side, you'll notice they're a little bit higher than what they have in the past. Reason being is the roofs for the 2 elementaries. We spent out about $1.2 million in the month of September to cover those roofs. So that's the reason for that large increase in that item there. On the month of September, we ended with a little over $51 million in the bank, which is down about $5 million compared to last year. But again, between the roofs and between the reduction in state foundation funding, and as well as the Miami Township, that accounts for the vast majority of that. Expenditure side of things, just a couple things to point out. On the investment side of things, we see a little over $50,000 in the month of interest. So far, through 3 months, we're at a little over $128,000 for the year. On the appropriation side, we did adjust one appropriation. We did get the Ohio Broadband Grant, so we need to appropriate that money so that we can spend it. That money will have to be spent before the end of the calendar year, so before December 31st. So that fund will be, you'll notice that will be depleted over here in the next couple months. And then the final thing is just a then and now invoice. If there's an invoice where the invoice is dated prior to the purchase order and it's over $3,000, it needs to come to the board. This was for the parking that was charged to participants that came in for the Milford Cross Country Invitational. So that's the reason for that invoice. Even though we got the invoice, we did get the money from ticket sales to actually cover the invoice.
Brian, from ticket sales, so is it coming out of athletic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So,
All right.
yeah, athletics through the hometown ticketing, they collected the parking fee. So, yeah, they'll obviously pay that back.
Got it.
That's all I have.
Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent report, Superintendent John Spicer.
President Ham, members of the board, under item B1, I do have approval of the change request between Milford Exempted Village School District and Vartech Services. I did invite Dr. Dunn this evening to give us a brief presentation of what the change order entails.
Good evening. About 5 years ago, the district made a decision to be a little more forward-thinking with technology and instruction, and they began the process of thinking about what was in the walls, what was on the ceilings, and what was throughout the district to make sure that we could handle the future and things that would happen. Nothing shows that more than the pandemic and our unexpected turn to going online and needing to do more things with virtual and digital. And before I get into too much of this, the really good part is there has not been a single component of our infrastructure that has gotten in the way of anything throughout the last 6 months. The highest we've had use of our highway has been about 50%. So we're in a great place with those things. We are right where we wanted to be. We were prepared to up that, to do more, but we don't need to at this time. So we're not going to change any of that piece yet. But in all of that planning, if I even know how this works, voila. It just might be delayed. So When we planned starting 5 years ago, it started with getting everything correct and right in the walls, and getting the wiring right, and getting the access points and wireless, getting the junior high ready for one-to-one, making sure the high school was also going to be ready for one-to-one, and the amount of traffic that would be there with student devices and cell phones. So if you look at from 2016 to 2020, that's when we formed the relationship with Vartech. We started working with their IT people and began making sure not only were all those things in place, but did we have a good plan to refresh things appropriately, because technology is ever changing. Well, we've done all that, and we've done that really well. So the next part is we have to get to technology integration. Did it hear me say that? That's impressive. So now we have to get to how we integrate technology, and I'm not trying to say like tech isn't important, but tech doesn't exist by itself. It's really not about technology. Devices don't mean anything to us, and it's about instruction. It's really about how we teach, how we engage students, how we support their learning, how we guide them to their future with how they learn and how they will eventually work as a grown-up. So as we move into the tech integration piece, what we didn't do in our plan on purpose, because we needed to take the time to get everything ready, is we didn't plan for the technology to be side-by-side integration. So over the last 6 months, most importantly over the last 2 months, not only Jill, Dr. Hollingsworth, and Paul, Mr. Daniels, and I, we've been discussing what's been missing. What is it that we, especially with Eagle Online, in this unexpected shift to online learning, and the need to use a lot of different tools and resources, many have, which we use, but we don't maybe use them fluently, or not everybody. So we talked about how we need to adjust now to start getting our teachers the support that they need, so that the students are getting the support that they need. So what we're suggesting and what we're recommending is an adjustment to our contract with Vartech to support that, to move to where we are not just providing 6 people in the district who are helping make sure that everything works, that accounts are set up, what's behind the walls is good. We want some people who are in the district side by side with staff members, helping them use the tools and resources that curriculum have chosen to help support that learning. So Vartech is really excited about that, because it lets us get some people who are educators, who are teachers, who also have experience with technology and technology integration, and they will become our experts. They will become the ones who will learn these resources and these tools that Jill, Paul, and I determine are best for our students, and they'll be able to help us work with teachers and students and even parents occasionally to use those tools and to become really good at them to help integrate that technology, because it's kind of, I don't want to say random because it sounds like it's unplanned, but it needs to be precise, and we need to get people in place who will be very specifically able to help a teacher use Schoology, Discovery Education, the online resources with ReadyGen, the online resources with Carnegie, and we need people who will do that. So Vartech has the ability to provide that. But we're not just adding a bunch of people, we're adjusting. So we are going to do, we're requesting an addition of 1 staff member through the Vartech contract, but we're actually going to change 3. So there will be 3 technology integrationists who will be available at all times for us in the district on site to help and support the professional development that needs to happen and to help get the tools in place for teachers. So when we spoke to teachers, they talked about that they need help and they need it at that moment. And anybody who's part of Eagle Online, Emily, you don't have to raise your hand, but you know that one of the problems is in that exact moment, there isn't always somebody available who can help with that specific issue, because in full defense to Vartech and the people who work with Vartech, first, they are amazing. I have a tremendous amount of respect for all of them. And that's not necessarily their thing. Like they don't They are not Schoology experts or Discovery Education experts. That's not, they can help us make sure things are working and accounts are working and find some troubleshooting through scripts that have been written and why these programs don't talk to one another. But they're not necessarily the ones who can help a teacher know how to use a resource well to increase engagement and understand why, how that connects to learning and standards and so on and so forth. So there's only one downside, and I'm going to say that in a little, I'm going to say that. So the teachers, they just need more. They need more support when they need it. They need to have people who have taught, who are educators, who can come into a classroom and work side by side with them to utilize the technology. And it's not that it's technology. I don't want you to think it's not a computer thing. It's a program. It's a resource thing. It's not to help a kid log on. It's to help them use Schoology, Google Classroom, and all those other programs. So the only bad part to this whole thing, and I'm going to inappropriately do all this, is that means we have people who are with us now. In fact, one of them's here. Sorry, David, I know you would never want me to point you out, but David and another person who works with Vartech, who's not here right now, Arshdeep, they will not be on site with us anymore. And that is the only thing that's really bad about it. And it's only bad about it because we love them. Like, they're awesome. Like, they're some of our favorite people in this world. But they will still be working with us, but they're going to work with us from a distance. They're going to work probably with other school districts and not in Milford, somewhere else, doing the same kinds of things they do now, but not doing it here. And then we'll bring integration experts in to help us with instruction and those sorts of things. But it does stink. And once people find out, like David and Arshdeep aren't going to be on site anymore, we could have some rioting. It's possible. It is. I can name about 5 people now who are not going to be happy about that. They all work in this building too. But it is the right next step. It's where we are. We've got the tech stuff down. We're working on curriculum now and integration and engagement and using these. We take a lot of time and energy to get the right resources here and to choose the right curriculum. We need people who can help merge those together at all times, at any given moment, so that they're being used the way that they're intended to be used. And to help Paul and Jill and myself to effectively evaluate the importance of those tools, the impact of those tools, to be able to make informed decisions about the right things to change or to continue using or to get rid of. So in the long run, it will give us a chance to appropriately allocate those resources. And they will help us bring back and do some things like tech summits and tech conferences and some things over the summer, because they're not 9-month employees. They work all year for us. So we'll have opportunities in June and July and August to even provide some support and PD for staff as well. So that would be a tremendous opportunity. The only other thing I'm going to share is it is an adjustment to the contract. We are adding an additional Vartech employee, but we are not making an adjustment to this. Is the Vartech contract falls under my budget. It's something that I work with. We are not making any adjustments to the budget that I work in. I'm reallocating, I'm readjusting. I'm just making decisions of what's more important, and I'm just moving things around to accommodate this request. And that could leave a bunch of questions if you have any. I'm more than happy to answer any.
So, Dr. Dunn, you basically are, you've got 3 people that are going to be so-called new. 2 of them are a trade, basically.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, we will be, I hate to say it like this because these are people who, 2 people will not be on site anymore, who are IT people, and 3 people are going to come on site. And those 3 will be integration specialists with a background in teaching and in education.
And there's no additional budget allocation here?
None.
Just to be clear for everyone.
There is no additional budget allocation. Their contract, there's a change, but it's just being moved from another area to accommodate that.
I really love what you're doing. especially when technology first started being used in schools, I think sometimes the focus did become on the computer, on the physical, which is a tool, just like pencil and paper and ruler is a tool, but using the computer and the other technology and finding the right pieces to teach that curriculum is so important, and it sounds like you're really moving forward on that, so congrats, it sounds like a great plan.
We have been, and I do want to say something that's important. We all know, I know most of us know Stacy Smith. This all began with her and her working with the curriculum departments and developing a refresh plan. And to the community, I don't think they realize how important that is. Because if you do not plan for a refresh of technology and things that we use, what happens is it's a constant, it's unpredictable. You're doing random things at all times. Nothing is ever aligned because what's in one room can last for 8 years, what's in another can last for 5. And things just aren't really, it's not a real good system for things. It's bad for planning, it's bad for budgeting. So it can appear like somebody could have the perception that you've replaced some things and they were still okay, but that's actually really not the case. We plan refreshes of projecting systems or devices for teachers or laptop, anything, because it's a way to keep things systematic. It's a way to, in the long run, save money because you're not doing the random purchases. When you do things in bulk, you get a better deal on them. So these refresh plans are very important, and then that refers to anything we do, whether it's projectors or devices or even furniture to some degree. Like we've talked about that with furniture. It's on a back burner for the moment because Rona showed up, but eventually that's important too. We have to think about the importance of those things, because then if not, the only other time we really do anything with that is when we build new buildings, because that's when it's all planned and built in, and it only lasts for so long. So this is part of that greater plan, and that piece is still there as well. That's not being removed. We're still working on those refresh plans. And in fact, we're working on classroom displays now and audio systems in classrooms. Eagle Online has also shined an even brighter light on the importance of that. So. Yeah, David just got married. Congrats, David. Any other questions?
Dr. Dunn, what is the time frame and the schedule for this in terms of rolling this out?
It's a good question. Right now, they're already working on identifying candidates. VARTech is going to run that process. We have met with them to talk about what we need from them. So Chris Turner, who oversees that for us here on site, he will get that to candidates that he thinks are the best ones for us, and he will work with Paul, Jill, and I to make those final decisions. So I would think within the next 30 days, we will have that switch made, which is great, especially as we prepare for an additional adjustment and a transition to our learning decisions, and that's not a bad time to start providing some additional support to staff. So yes.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry, can I ask one more question?
You
All right,
can.
we've already closed questions.
So the number of people you're contracting with for this year, will that need to be increased next year? Okay, assuming that everybody is back in school next year, would we need more people, or is this
Actually,
still the right number?
You asked a question I didn't even think about addressing, because there is something significant to this. This is the plan for the moment indefinitely. The best part of it is, if we get going with this and we find out in January or September that, you know what, 2 of them could do it, we can go back to either adding in an additional IT or cutting that person back out of that contract if we don't need it. I would be surprised by that, but we can definitely adjust that based on need. So we can do another adjustment if we find out next fall that we need 4 or we only need 2. my hesitation with 2, we debated. We really thought, because we could have kept 2 and not made a change, we just felt like we have 9 buildings. It's unreasonable to think that, it's almost borderline unreasonable to think that 3 can do that perfectly. But we have some buildings like the junior high that are fluent in Schoology. They're not going to need anything with Schoology. So we can specialize that, and with 3 people, we think it gives us the right amount of versatility in these times, like with the complexity of different support that we need to give to different people depending on the platform. I would be surprised that we would ever need less than 3. But we may need less IT in time. So, theoretically,
Thanks.
yes. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Referring to Superintendent Report Item 1, we will need a motion for the approval of the change request between Milford EVSD and Vartex Services, as explained in the presentation by Dr. Dunn.
So move.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions?
Sounds like it's a great plan to me.
Yeah. And again, just to reiterate, this is a big improvement and a cost-neutral improvement, so that's a good thing. Hearing no more discussion, we'll ask for roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
President
Superintendent
Ham, we're asking for the following policies in 2 and 3 for your approval this evening. Excuse me, those are regulations, 2 policies.
We'll need a motion for Superintendent Report Items 2 and 3.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further
Just
discussion regarding these items?
Just a question. So these are regulations?
2 and 3 are regulations, that is correct.
So we don't need to vote on those?
That is correct.
But do you want us to, or?
No, I don't want you to vote on this, because you don't have to vote on those, so.
If it's a state-required regulation, you do.
Okay.
I don't know if these qualify under that, but it wouldn't hurt to.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
let's
Thank
do
you.
that, because the Ohio High School Athletic extracurricular participation would be good, and then also the public complaints would be good as well.
And I don't know how to remove an item once we've motioned and seconded, so we got to keep it on there anyway, right?
It's more motions.
There you go.
So we've got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
I guess I'm affirming, so yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
President Ham, members of the board, we're asking for the first reading of the following policies, A, B, C, D, and E. Also, under number 5, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the Milford School Board meetings would be moving to board docs, would be migrating to board docs in November. Most of us, some of us have had our board docs initiation session. So if you haven't done that or scheduled that for yourself, we'd ask that you go ahead and make sure you get that done. All of the agendas will be available online through our website on the Tuesday before every board meeting. And so everything will be available online, and I believe attachments will be there as well. And that's all of the informational items.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is the community use of schools, why are Boy Scouts called out specifically in that?
I'm going to turn to Paul, but I'm not sure I know that
I just thought it was interesting.
answer.
Of all the organizations that use our schools,
Sure.
I just didn't know.
Under KG, we'll look at that, and I'll get an
Oh.
answer to you.
Note that in the rewrite, I know that in the rewrite, these are actual required from ODE as part of our August PDQ, so we'll look at that up real quick. And that was GCPD.
I'm looking at
Community
KG.
use of schools, it says KG.
KG.
KG, community
I
use of
left
schools.
my agenda over there.
You don't memorize these random collection of
No,
letters?
no. In fact, I'm gonna look off the date real quick.
G like George.
Oh, I was putting in D.
Ah. It just had a separate line that
It
said,
does.
Boy Scouts, essentially Boy Scouts are also allowed to use the school.
Well, I can't answer that question, because it does have to do with just the equal access to the buildings. So I'm not particularly sure why OSBA would recommend or adjust that as such. But I do know that the new policy, the first read does have to in fact deal with that secular activities or non-secular can happen before, during, or after the school day, as long as it does not interfere with instruction. And then if it then the example I used with the committee was that if a student chose to use their narrative in their English class in order to address something personal to them and it had to do with their religion, that the rubric or the scoring would focus not on the religious, but on the content or how it lays out next to standards. But as this is the first read, I can do a little research. Jen Schaefer and I will work with OSBA and find out specifically why they are called out or mentioned in the policy, and I will have that given to you by the November meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, we're going to move on to item C, Human Resources. Superintendent John Spicer.
Thank you, President Ham, members of the board. Under Human Resources items, number 1, we do have a stipend for Michelle Dorsey for your approval.
We'll need a motion for Human Resources item 1.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut? Mr.
Yes.
Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Under item C2, asking for approval of the family care leave of absence without pay, 2A.
We need
So
a
moved.
motion for Human Resources item 2A.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Under item C, President Ham, members of the board, we're asking for the following classified items in C3 through 8.
We'll need a motion for C, Human Resources items 3 through 8.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
President Ham, members of the board, under item C, 9 through 11, we're asking for approval of the following supplemental items.
We need a motion for the approval of item C, numbers 9 through 11.
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
President Ham, members of the board, asking for approval of the following athletic and extracurricular items, C12, 13, and 14.
We'll need a motion for the approval of item C, items 12, 13, 14.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
President Ham, members of the board, asking for approval under items C, 15, 16, and 17. That would be approval for accompanists, lifeguards, and volunteers.
We need a motion for approval. Item C, 15, 16, and 17.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. We're moving on to item D, curriculum and instruction. Superintendent Spicer.
Thank you, President Ham, members of the board. This evening, we do have Homecoming Reimagined for 2020. There is a video. I do have a prepared statement about the video. Milford High School's Student Council reimagined this year's homecoming festivities earlier this month, including a reverse homecoming parade. Instead of parading through the street, student groups, clubs, extracurriculars, sports teams, and the homecoming court were set up along the drive behind the high school, and vehicles drove through the campus, enthusiastically honking and showing their support. Along with parade, students participated in Spirit Week, dressing up as different themes each day, such as binge-watching character day and Zoom call day. The pep rally that would have typically occurred in the gym during the school day was moved to a virtual event, and the homecoming dance was instead a virtual stay-at-homecoming dance on Saturday evening. We're really proud of the students for coming up with all of these fun ideas, as you'll see in this video, which highlights the reverse homecoming parade. The students really did make the best of the situation, and they were able to bring everyone together. We appreciate our Milford Schools community for coming out and showing their support to our students. I'd also like to thank Mr. Yeager, our student council advisors, as well as Aaron Zufka, our athletic director, for being a part of that. With our, our philosophy this year is let's modify, let's not cancel. So we appreciate their efforts in making this happen.
So this is what Milford High School calls a reverse homecoming parade. COVID-19 put a damper on the school's traditional homecoming festivities this year. So instead of the fall sports teams and the band and different student groups marching through Milford, they lined up outside the school and the community came to them, staying safe in their cars.
We wanted to find out a way to make it safe but still do something for the student body to get excited for and have the clubs still have something like this, because I know it's a super fun thing every single year. Everyone looks forward to it.
A special good morning to our friends at Milford High School. This is what they did. How creative is this? Instead of a traditional homecoming parade, they did it backwards. Basically, they called it a reverse homecoming parade. The community paraded past the band members, cheerleaders, and homecoming court.
That's a community coming together right there, man. That's pretty
and
cool.
And what a great way to do that,
yeah.
Instead of just canceling like prom and so many things that had to be canceled in the spring.
Everybody kind of, stay in the cars. Everybody's in their own little pod, if you will.
Yeah. Way to go, Milford.
Smart.
Well done, well done. I had the opportunity to drive through there. The percussion guys look really good in that video.
Yeah, yes, they do. You know one of them by chance?
I may know one of them, yeah. But, for the circumstances we're under, I thought it went really, really well. Congratulations to Dan and your team and everybody that put a lot of time and effort into that, our student council, because I thought it was great. I really thought it was a lot cooler than I expected. Thanks to our local police, our fire and EMS for participating as well. Turning the corner and seeing all those lights at dusk was just a cool thing. It really worked out well. And getting the recognition from our local press, that's fantastic.
I'll say, am I on? I'm on. So we're doing Eagle Online, for everyone who doesn't know, but, I've really enjoyed that my son is a high schooler and can participate. So he was in the parade and he, and fall sports for the fall. So I do think that as we reimagine not only homecoming, but what the fall looks like, I've been very impressed with what we've been able to work around and manage and to keep some of those things and not have to scrap everything. So really appreciate the hard work from athletics and the arts departments for doing that.
Thank you.
And having been in the line, it felt like I was an extra in Field of Dreams. We turned the corner up here, and it was like a half hour to get on campus, and it was well worth it. I did notice my car in the video, in both of the videos, so I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't know that happened. But honestly, a wonderful event, and I'm not so sure that more people saw the homecoming parade this year than have seen it in the past, and maybe we found a better way to do homecoming parades.
We might have. Could be a new tradition for us. All right, I'll move on to the next item in curriculum. President Ham, members of the board, we're asking for the following curriculum pay items for your approval in numbers D2 through 7.
Under curriculum, item D, we're looking for approval 2 through 7. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes, but I'm just noticing 4 has Elizabeth Emons listed twice. She's D and B.
Good catch.
Very good. Good catch.
So I don't know what I do with that yet. Yes, with that update.
We won't pay her twice, so.
Thank you,
You
Brian.
could argue with that.
So yeah, you're okay.
Okay, then
We're good?
yes.
We're good with that? Okay.
We're good. Mr. Ham?
Roll call, please. Do we
We
do-
did, it
You're
was
the
just
last one,
you.
Mr.
To
Ham.
you.
Say it again?
You just have to say
You're
yes.
the last roll call.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Or no.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
There we go.
Distracted.
So did you actually ask the question right before I was supposed to say yes?
Then he said your name,
Oh,
but
okay,
yes.
gotcha,
yes.
okay.
I threw it off, my apologies.
That's funny. Okay.
Yep, President Ham, members of the board, we're asking for the following items. They are trips. They are D8 and 9, the JROTC Raiders teams, and also the VEX Robotics.
We need a motion for D items 8 and 9.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Just want to stress, so they're going to be handled very differently, but both of them will be focused on safety and distancing, et cetera, et
Yes.
cetera.
Yes, you can see, for those that have an agenda, you can see under D, it says all cadets will stay in their own bubble, if you will. There'll be no mixing of other teams, et cetera. Masks and gloves, temp checks, parents are driving, is that correct, Paul? Parents are driving to and from, and that would be for both competitions. So absolutely, safety is of the utmost concern, and I think that's really one of the reasons why we're bringing it to you, is because they did do their due diligence to make sure that they were being as safe as possible.
So parents aren't driving for JROTC, right? That's Live Oaks. And then parents are driving to Kalahari?
It's either or. It could be.
Either or, okay.
They will be following social distancing if they choose to use transportation.
Okay.
So,
And of course, if things are bad at the time, then these can be changed.
Common sense will be used.
Any more comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. We've now reached our second public participation.
I do have one. Karen Crockett?
That was a long wait.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I chose to come here tonight because I've been trying to reach out to our Eagle Online principal due to what I consider as scheduling issues. Eagle Online for 6th grade is not as smooth and not as conducive to learning as I think it could be. So I actually sat down and kind of went through it all and compared side by side all 6 buildings and put together a schedule. And I sent it in hopes that it would be looked at. I understand, you know, change is difficult. We've all been through a lot of change, but in looking at the schedule and what it could be and how that could really help the students learn, I was disappointed to be told we'll look at it possibly for 2nd semester. That's months. As a parent to a student who is going through it and struggling, I think that the changes would really help. I did bring copies of the schedule, both the current and what I proposed, if anybody is interested in seeing it. I'm not sure, I mean, you know, paper handling and things like that. Didn't want to just kind of throw it out, but I do have them. But the schedule that I proposed is more of a block. So if you're going into math, there's 3 parts to every class. You have your mini meeting, usually a video, Zoom block, and then independent learning. My proposed schedule would be keeping that all together. Instead, what some of these buildings are doing is going to a mini meeting and a Zoom meeting, and then going to another mini meeting and a Zoom meeting, and then another mini meeting and a Zoom meeting. And there's no time for them to practice what they're learning. So they're waiting, you know, 2-3 hours to finally sit back down and go, what was it that I learned at 9 a.m.? You know, and it takes them a lot longer to get through this work. I have friends of my daughter's who's here, who call and say, you know, can you help me with this? And I'm happy to help, but it's 5, 6 o'clock at night. And I'm going, why are you guys still working on this stuff? So I really had hoped that we could push a change through a little sooner.
30 seconds.
It doesn't have to be first thing on Wednesday morning, even, you know, a week to look at it. I just don't think that waiting until 2nd semester is what's in the best interest of these students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Okay.
Would anyone else like a copy?
Yeah.
I'm up.
Take a copy. Thank you.
I made 10, so.
Thank you.
I think actually, yeah.
the board members look good.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Oh,
Is it the same one that I have?
it is, but
Okay.
there's only one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next Item 9, our next regular Board of Education meeting will be November 12th, 2020, here in this room, if all stays well. We have it earlier in November, just to make note, because of the Thanksgiving holiday. And the question I have is, normally we have November set aside to honor our veterans. Do we have a program for that date this year?
Yes, sir. We're gonna do November 12th. And we've been in contact with Mr. Knapp to talk about the Wall of Honor as well, and so we've reached out to him. I had not checked in today with Jen Schaefer to see if that had gotten any traction, but I'll follow up with her tomorrow. So our plan is to have something. I'm not sure that we'll have veterans come physically, but we'll have something. We're planning to do some things in the buildings and video, et cetera. Anna O'Neill at the high school has some things in the works as well. So we do have something planned for next month.
Great, thank you. Item B is discussion. Any discussion, comments from our board?
We made it another 4 weeks. So what is that, John, now 7 weeks?
Well, this is the end of the quarter. Today was
Day
the
to
end of the
day.
quarter.
It's day to day over here.
And everywhere. But I think everybody's doing a good job of trying to keep the boat afloat, and we just take it a day at a time and just keep going.
And Mr. Spicer, have you gotten any feedback about choosing for second semester? Is that all going smoothly?
I'm glad you brought that up. I told Dr. Dunn to have that ready. We still have 15 days to go, so people still have 15 days to, if they want to make a change. But Dr. Dunn is going to tell you how many have decided to make it a change and what their change is going to be.
This was from around, I'd say 4 o'clock. We've had 138 people respond with a change, and 117 of them will be switching from Eagle Online to in-person learning, and 21 will be going from in-person to Eagle Online. And the most significant number you would want to know would be how to get to 21. 9 seniors chosen to go to Eagle Online, and only 2 to move to in-person. So that really got skewed mostly by the 12th graders. Other than that, the numbers that you really want to know is how many are wanting to move to Eagle Online, because it's the lowest number. 1 first grader, 1 4th grader, 1 5th grader, 1 6th grader, 1 7th grader, 2 8th graders, 4 9th graders, 1 10th, and 0 11th. So there's nothing like significant in the sense of those numbers other than the 9 for 12th graders, seniors. And other than that, 12 kindergarten. The bigger numbers are 12 kindergarten to move in person, 11 second, 3 third, 12 fifth, 12 eighth, and 13 in 9th grade. So.
Is there any concern if a good number of people want to go from Eagle Online back to in-person because things have been going so well? Is there any concern then with the amount of space in the classrooms?
No, not really. I mean, all we can do is continue keeping the safety measures we've put in place. They're working. They're working really well. The cases that we've gotten, none of that happened at school. None's been transferred at school. And space is important, but it's also part of the equation we have the least control over. We have control over this. We have control over shields. The most significant things that have happened in all of the buildings, but specifically junior high and high school, is they really designed a structure and a schedule inside of these buildings that changes the movement, how much movement is happening, the cross between students and grade levels. So those things won't change, but class sizes will. They likely will. It would be hard for that not to change. And we will do just like we did the last time. We'll do everything we can to make those as low as possible, but at the end of the day, we can't make a classroom larger at the junior high. So, but we're comfortable with that. We want the kids back. We really do. So we're excited about that.
And you expect that we'll have some teachers that will move, if the trend continues with what you've come up with, some of the teachers will move back into in building?
Possibly, yes. Now, yes, I don't know how this would happen without some of that happening, but on the flip side of that, we can really only move people in where that would be appropriate as well. Like if the numbers are so low that we'd have like 12 in a classroom, well, we wouldn't do that. We'd rather get the Eagle Online numbers lower. I mean, we will look at all of those variables, yes, every grade level, every building, and we'll make those decisions the best that we can for all of those pieces.
So to that, what Dr. Dunn is saying, what is really important, me personally, I've received about 4 emails stressing that parents want more time. And my return email to them is that we can't give them more time because we need the time to adjust staff in the elementaries, K to 6, but also at the junior high and high school, the opportunity for them to build a master schedule. We did not build a master schedule back in July, as some suggested. Well, you knew back in July, so you should be okay. Well, we didn't, because we knew there would be a big change. And so Josh Kaufman at the high school, Misty Getz at the junior high, and their teams, along with Paul, will be building a new master schedule. A new master schedule, as Paul, Rob, and I have built before as building principals. You start that process
in February.
In February, you know, it's January, you start to build the catalog, and then in February, you really ramp it up, and then you don't really have it until May. And May is about 95% complete, and then you need the summer to kind of finalize some things and to balance out classes. So the reality is we really do need November and the 3 weeks in December to get it done. And that's going to push it, you know. When we told Josh that he had 7 weeks, he was like, you know, yeah, okay. So,
in elementary, we'll have a different challenge. They don't have to rebuild a master schedule necessarily, but there will be there will possibly be some really tough decisions about students who have maybe had a teacher all year who won't. Because if we have to add a teacher if we have enough that go back into a building in a grade level and we bring a teacher back, well, if that's only 12 kids, we've got to move students out of that other room to balance that out. So for really everybody in the district, it almost could be like back to the first day of school. January is a new start to our school year. I mean, we will do everything we can to minimize that and to do that as little as possible, but it'll happen. There's no way around it. We're talking about 6,500 students. But we'll do it.
As I understand, you're being contacted by people that want to change. If you do not request a change,
you stay where you
are. If you don't want to change, you don't get contacted.
Yeah, we don't need to hear, if you're going to keep the same placement, we don't really need to know that. It lets us actually manage it easier. Managing maybe a couple hundred, maybe a few hundred, it could get up to 400 or 500, but that's still that's less than the 7,000 or 10,000 because people did it multiple times last time.
Okay, I guess what I'm thinking is, if somebody just didn't get the memo that they have to, you know.
Oh, they'll get it.
Do it.
They'll get it.
Make sure that they do it, because otherwise you're going to end up having to contact.
Yeah. There's going to be more and more communication as we get closer to that time. We're going to make sure that they get reminded in every way possible. Drone flyovers and things like that. And we want everybody, and we do feel bad. John mentioned, we wish they could have more time, but unfortunately, it's complicated. There's a lot of things that have to go into this. So we have to have enough time to do this right, because we will be readjusting the Eagle Online piece as well. I mean, everything gets readjusted in January, so we need time to do that.
And that could include busing and all kinds of
it absolutely
little rollover things.
It impacts all of it.
We know we didn't have quite as much time as we wanted in the fall, and we took an extra week to get it organized.
Well, not only does it impact everything like that, it also impacts all these processes that all the buildings have put in place. They have to be looked at again and adjusted and revamped, because when you increase the number of students or adjust courses, they have to rethink all of those pieces as if we're doing it brand new as well. And out of respect to everybody, including our staff and students, the rumors are there are holidays in the middle of all that too. And we would like for people to have that time as well.
Yeah, you all did an amazing job in the summer with no time. And even November and part of December, I know it's not enough. And I'm sure that they will be working over the holidays, which is a shame. And I know our staff will do it because they're so committed. So, yeah, there's no room to push that back. And even so, I know they're just going to be up against the wire. Is that the right expression?
Yeah, backs against the wall.
The wall, yeah, whatever.
Down to the wire.
Down to the
there it
wire,
is.
backs against the wall.
There you go.
And the fact that you've got such a high percentage of people moving back to school as opposed to going to online is certainly a ringing endorsement for the way we've managed our district. And kudos to everybody that's involved here.
He's going to quote
We had a
me.
conversation the other day, and it was actually, we only did it in a brief committee meeting, but what you said is really important. A lot of people chose Eagle Online because they had the idea, as many of us did, not falsely, that there could be a back and forth and a back and forth and a back and forth. And they felt like, for consistency for themselves and their children, they're just going to choose Eagle Online. Now that they've been able to observe and witness how we handle it and how we work with, there's a little bit more comfort that hopefully isn't going to happen too frequently. At least that's not the desire. But so I think, and you had mentioned that,
Yeah,
that
I
really
mean, that
played
was
into it.
the main driver as a working family. What was I going to do if it was 2 kids were quarantined or one? You know, this constant week-to-week planning would have been very difficult. So you know,
Even going from remote to back and remote to back, like that could
Yeah.
be, and we could. And when I say that, I'm not saying that we still couldn't. But so far, that hasn't been what's happened.
Right.
So I think that's changing how people feel, that they're maybe more comfortable taking that risk to do in person from a scheduling standpoint.
Just a question on the schedule. I've been looking at this proposed schedule. Have people looked at this? Does this have staffing implications to make these kind of changes?
This schedule is the first time I'm seeing it. It was sent today via email. I was on a family sick leave today, so I've not had a chance to see it. So I could not answer that question.
Okay.
I can make an observational comment about that. No, I didn't change a single thing with timing of Zoom meetings or how many Zoom meetings or anything. They're the exact same time. You're talking about the schedule, I think.
Mhm.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I'm just curious as whether there would be staffing implications, because I'm not completely sure how all these people work together from one building to another. But
The 3 teachers work really, really well in 6th grade. I mean, they really have been great. It's just basically instead of teaching McCormick at this time, they would teach Mulberry so that it flows better. That's really the only change. So as far as the teachers go, it's exactly the same as what they're doing now.
take a look at it.
We will take a look at it.
Okay, I want to wish those that are able to enjoy a happy fall break, which started this evening, especially for our students who really have done a remarkable job this year of weathering through all of the changes and the different rules and the masks and the barriers, and have come through this extremely well as we could have expected. And to give them a few days off to get outside, breathe a little bit, exhale, I think it'll be good for everybody. And with that, we'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you, everyone, and have a good night.